There are lots and lots of possibilities, but for now, let me pick one. It's an old example now. It's Wikipedia, celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. The very idea that you could have created a really good encyclopedia with no one in charge, that was kind of like a completely surprising idea, even to the people who created Wikipedia. They didn't expect it. It was kind of a side thing that turned out to work much better than what they thought was going to work. So I think that's an inspiring example and leads us to think about what other impossible things might now be possible.
So one quick example, which will be covered early on in the journal, is democracy. So in the last year, we've seen the US suffering with 18th century democratic inventions, the Electoral College. Britain, my country, has a House of Lords. And yet elsewhere in the world, places like Taiwan, people are trying to reinvent democracy for the age of digital technologies and the internet, and ask, how does a democracy make full use of the collective intelligence of a people? It's such a revolutionary idea. It's so far away from where many of the old democracies are, but it probably is so essential for almost everything else we care about that those ideas are successfully pursued.
I could say one thing about biology that I will, one quick remark I'll make is the surprising role of noise. So there's a paper in Nature Physics published in the last year by actually somebody on our editorial board that showed in fish that noise, which we normally think of as disorganizing or confusing things, can actually, when you ratchet it up, it actually causes the fish, these are schooling fish, to switch from a shoaling state to a schooling state. And I think for a lot of people that's very surprising because they, noise doesn't do that. But in fact, and then it comes back to my earlier remark about the debate, in fact, noise can be incredibly important to collective intelligence. But just the GameStop thing quickly. So we're all familiar with the GameStop, Robinhood, Reddit event that's unfolding now. And there's an amazing collective intelligence story in here that remains to be told. But the basic elements of it are this. To most people, the interesting thing is that this group on Reddit got together and changed the stock price. And that's not really the interesting part, as far as I'm concerned. It is interesting that there are, these platforms like Robinhood that allow these small investors to coordinate for the first time, right? But the more interesting thing is that, the powerful actors on Wall Street realize the power of collective behavior and collective intelligence and collective stupidity, to reference Jeff, and manipulated, possibly, this group on Reddit to help them short squeeze the hedge funds that were investing in GameStop, right? So what we have here is collective behavior by this Reddit group that's either stupid or not. We can discuss that, collective stupidity or collective intelligence, but that collective intelligence being manipulated by another party to do something that it wouldn't have been able to do had it just used its own capital. That's possibly the story here, and it's just so interesting. And the sort of backdrop to that is this. It's not just the scientists, and we all know this, that have this great microscopic data. In fact, it's companies like Google, Facebook, hedge funds that have this data now. And so they are as on board with the importance of collective phenomena as scientists are. And so if we don't develop a good understanding as scientists of collective intelligence principles, we are going to be run over by corporations that are going to develop those principles and use them to exploit the rest of us. So important.